and welcome to Digital CxO. I'm Amanda Razani, and with me today I have Vinay Prabhu. He is the Director of Product at Graphiant. How are you doing?
Good, Amanda. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you on the show. So today's topic is data assurance. But before we get into the topic, can you share a little bit about Graphiant and what services do y'all provide?
So Graphian's network as a service platform, and what I mean by that is we provide any-to-any connectivity, whether it's from your private space to the private domain, the private space to the cloud, or the public domain. And the services that you can consume, so it's a consumption-based model, so you don't have to worry about the network itself. That's built out for you. So we provide our Graphian backbone as a service. You consume bandwidth on that backbone to get you from point A to point B. And we get you to the cloud. We provide you B2B connectivity. We provide you the data assurance service all on top of it. And we provide you the SD-WAN capabilities that are already prevalent in the industry. So we have a bunch of services that we provide on top of this backbone.
All right, wonderful. Well, so let's talk about data. And I want to share, first of all, your stance is that data in motion has become one of the biggest security risks in the enterprise today. Can you explain a little bit more about that and why you think that?
So data lives in three states, like you mentioned data in motion. The data is at rest, the data is in processing, and then the data is most vulnerable when it's set in motion because for the first time, it moves out of your private domain into the public domain. So data at rest is sitting still in your domain, within your perimeter. Data in processing is still within your perimeter. It's when it exits your perimeter and into the ether of the internet, that's when it's most vulnerable. And hence we think that's the most critical aspect from a security point of view of where data needs the most protection. With the industry going into the AI world today, the data is getting a lot more disaggregated. It's no longer just your data. You need to share this data with your B2B partners, with LLMs, with GPUs, so on and so forth. So you're almost extending your perimeter beyond your boundary with places where you're exchanging this data. Graphine's a data exchange platform. So with that in mind, we need to really protect this disaggregated data and extend your security posture and your risk appetite beyond just the perimeter into the business domain of things as well. So that's where our data assurance story begins.
Okay. So, can you share some of the top vulnerabilities and risks associated with data in motion that business leaders should be concerned about?
So data in motion, there are a bunch of things that they need to worry about, right? One, is it encrypted? Is it there's a spatial component and there's a temporal component to every conversation. So contextualizing data is the first pillar that's key to protecting your data. So knowing what the intent of the data is, and then really plotting it on a map, right, of space and time. Am I consuming the data where it's supposed to be consumed? So let's say, hey, I need to, my servers are located globally, but if I'm authorized to only access servers in North America within sovereign boundaries, then that's the spatial component of where I should be consuming that data from and not going beyond those sovereign boundaries. There's a time component of it. If I'm allowed to access data, I need to access it during work hours. If I'm accessing it out of work hours, that might be anomalous. So you need to really contextualize when you're accessing it, where you're accessing it, and how you're accessing it. So those are the three pieces of the puzzle that any CIO, CISO of an enterprise or a service provider would be looking out for in terms of how to protect and what to protect your data in motion from.
Are there any tools or technologies that you recommend that would help safeguard this data in motion?
Graphiant, I would recommend Graphiant and the data assurance offering itself. What we've tried to do for the first time is get security to govern routing, extending your security perimeter into the network space. So what I mean by that is data is your most sovereign asset, and giving that the treatment like any sovereign asset deserves. Data should stay within data embassies that extend your sovereign boundaries from point A to point B. So, let's say you have GDPR data that's critical to you. GDPR states that this data needs to stay within boundaries or within trusted entities that extend those boundaries. So, keeping that kind of risk posture within your network of where this data travels from point A to point B, who's the producer, who's the consumer, and those are entities that are GDPR compliant is key. And that's the control Graphene aims to give you with a click of a button of where your data moves, how it moves, and who produces it and who consumes it.
So, would you think that corporate boards play a role in shaping policies for data protections? And if so, how?
Uh, Both corporations influence compliance needs as well as governments, right? And these constantly keep adapting and changing. So, having your enterprise ready and your network ready to adapt to these flex or these modifications on data governance and compliance is key, right? It's hard to rip and replace infrastructure. Say a government changes in a region, the compliance and regulation or encryption regulations change, it's hard to rip cables apart and reroute it around that region if it's not compliant to your enterprise. So having a programmable network that can really just at a click of a button reroute that path around that region is what's key. So it's a mix of both. The regulations or the compliance needs of an enterprise. Example, financial institutions have PCI kind of regulations. Governments may have the GDPR and HIPAA kind of regulations. So, but businesses have to comply to both. So it's a mix of both, and giving you that adaptability is key, and giving you that control back is key.
Wonderful. Well, out of all this, what is say one key takeaway that you could leave our audience with today?
The key takeaway is just protecting your perimeter isn't enough. Having a network that extends your segmentation from your boundaries, from your edge, really getting your business traffic, the business internet. So the internet was inherently built for open communication, but enterprises need a different kind of internet. That's the business internet, and Graphene aims to provide you that with its backbone as a service offering, allowing you to program the business internet based on how you are consuming and producing data, and how you govern that data is key. So I would really encourage folks to focus on how security can really govern routing in the age of the business internet.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights today.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.
All right. And thank you to our audience. Stay tuned. There's more.